Imagine this. You're alone in a field, surrounded by hundreds, no, thousands of enemies. All hope seems lost, but in the face of danger, you smile. Reaching down to the katana on your waist, you take your stance and unsheath it. You surgically mow down your enemies, sprinting around the battlefield with an unmatched precision and speed. After the blink of the eye, the battlefield is empty, and there you are, alone again. You wipe off the remaining blood of your katana and sheath it. Who came to your mind in that field? Was it Kenshin, Zoro, Tanjiro? Or maybe it was someone else. Maybe you thought of Gintoki, or Musashi, or maybe even Tom Cruise in The Last Samurai. Regardless of who came to your mind at first, it's undeniable that the stoic swordsman is a popular figure who arises in both anime and other media. And it's also undeniable that if you're watching this video, you probably imagined being that stoic sword fighter at one point of your life. I won't blame you, I'm like that too. Who doesn't want to be a hero who mastered the blade? My fascination with sword fighting has engulfed my life since I first came into this world. As a young kid, I was drawn to the lightning-quick swordplay from a galaxy far, far away. And once I was introduced to the superheroes, my favorites always carried around a sword of some kind. But it wouldn't be until I started watching anime that my obsession with the blade would fully sink in. And coincidentally, that lined up with when I started really getting into martial arts. Which led me to where I am now, studying Kendo, or the Japanese way of the sword. You've likely encountered Kendo while scrolling into a YouTube rabbit hole at 3 AM. At least that's how I encountered it. While looking for Aikido Boken forms, YouTube's algorithm decided to push a video of what looked like two samurais fighting with bamboo sticks, followed by an even more enticing title which labeled the video as the Kendo World Championship 2018 Finals. And if you ever have time, I do suggest you check this video out because it is just amazing to watch people at the top of their game compete. Over the next 30 minutes, I watched this video in awe. The Kendoka, that's the official term for someone who practices Kendo, crashed into each other and belt out loud kiai or screams to illustrate their own spirit. The warriors took turns exchanging blows, and with every point awarded, my interest in the sport grew more. But it was for the wrong reason. I looked at Kendo as a window to the past where, for just a few minutes, I could live out my dream of being an anime sword fighter. And it wouldn't be until I joined my university's Kendo Club that I would come to realize that Kendo is almost not about sword fighting at all. Modern day Kendo was officially born in 1954 with the formation of the All-Japanese Kendo Federation, but the sport's history goes back hundreds, if not thousands of years. Before the Meiji Restoration's ban on swords, many swordsmen had their own schools of Kenjutsu, which is where we begin to see some of the ancestral versions of Kendo. And around the early 1700s is when we really see the first instances of these Kenjutsu dojos using bamboo swords or shinai and armor or bogu to train. And all these Kenjutsu dojo had one goal in mind: to teach their students how to fully utilize a blade to kill their opponent. To differentiate themselves, many styles started adopting unique training techniques, like specializations in a certain type of sword or unique footwork, to which the famous swordsman Miyamoto Musashi famously replied that these styles were a lot of flour but not much fruit. Essentially, all the extra footwork and stuff that they were adding to differentiate themselves was irrelevant. So come the Meiji Restoration, and now the police corps need a unified system where they need to teach all of the policemen the same type of sword fighting. And in an effort to combine all of these different schools of Kenjutsu, the first 10 kata of Kendo were born. And the Meiji Restoration Police Corps served as one of the baselines for modern day Kendo. But wait, before you go to sign up for Kendo, let me clarify one thing. It's not all about sword fighting. Unlike many martial arts, where you'll learn to train techniques that you can apply in the real world, Kendo isn't meant to teach you how to slash someone down with a katana. That may have been how it started, but following the banning of martial arts in Japan after the Second World War, Kendo sort of rebranded itself as more of a spiritual training than a physical one. In fact, the All-Japanese Kendo Federation describes Kendo as a way to discipline human character through the application of the principles of the katana. And this idea of molding the human spirit through Kendo extends to even the modern day competitions and how they are held. To score a point in Kendo, you need to be in complete unity with yourself by showing off something called Kikentai no Ichi. And while I could explain the whole concept of Kikentai no Ichi to you, I actually sat down with the coach of Penn State's Kendo Club to discuss this very subject. The second dan, Eric Hasegawa, defines Kikentai no Ichi as follows.
Kikentai no Ichi means spirit, which is the ki, ken is the sword, tai is the body, and then no Ichi means like unity as one. So Kiken Tai no Ichi means that you're trying to unify all of those aspects in Kendo. For the ki, you're trying to make your spirit present, so that's embodied through several concepts like seme, which is pressure, or kiai, which is the shouting, which is a very important part of Kendo. Tai is the body, which is arguably the most important. Your body needs to be functioning in all the right ways in order for you to score the perfect point in Kendo. And Ken is the sword. The sword has to be placed correctly in space.
Additionally, in our conversation, Eric told me that although Kendo may seem like it's about perfecting the point, it's actually about finding the flaws within yourself that are keeping you from performing at your absolute best, which really explains everything about how modern day Kendo is practiced. Like how it's still a part of the Japanese police force's curriculum, even though they don't need to carry a sword around like they did in the Meiji era. While they may no longer need to hone the skill with a katana, they still need to develop discipline, courage, and both physical and spiritual strength. All things that Kendo is excellent at teaching you. And simply put, Kendo isn't easy, like, at all. There are 4 target areas in Kendo: the head, also known as men, the wrist, or kote, the stomach, or the do, and the throat, or ski, which is reserved for advanced practitioners of the sport. These target areas were selected to them being the hardest possible targets for someone to go after, meaning you can't come into Kendo swinging your shinai around like a madman, but instead you have to be much more calculated with where you hit. So with all this into consideration, you may be thinking, why would I ever want to join Kendo? Sure, to the outside eye, it may look like fun samurai LARPing, but I just deconstructed the entire sport, explaining to you why you will never be able to be a samurai through Kendo alone. True, I did say that, but we probably should take one quick look at another thing that I also said. But following the banning of martial arts in Japan after the Second World War, Kendo sort of rebranded itself as more of a spiritual training than a physical one. Did you catch that? I said Kendo rebranded itself as a more spiritual martial art, meaning that while it may have lost some of its original Kenjutsu roots, it still maintains some of the original values. And some of the traces of the code of honor of the samurai, also known as Bushido, are still present in Kendo. So no, you won't be able to cut down someone with a katana at lightning fast speeds, but you will be able to carry yourself around with a sense of honor and confidence that is not really gained through any other sport. I also had the chance to sit down with the Penn State Kendo Club's president, Nick Mitran, to discuss this exact topic.
Kendo, I think, really helps you build a sense of confidence and really, standing up if you really, want to stand up for something. You need to hold your ground on it. But also just, in general, social situations, talking to people, I found like Kendo has really helped me with kind of keeping a steady footing and staying confident on myself.
An increase in confidence isn't all that surprising. After all, part of the way that Kendoka are evaluated in competitions is based on how they can pressure their opponent simply by carrying themselves. And almost all the skills learned in this art are transferred over to the real world, even if you don't notice it. As the great swordsman Miyamoto Musashi once said, by having one thing, you should know 10,000. Implying that for every new skill a warrior learns, there are 10,000 ways to apply it. And at the end of the day, I believe that's what the real beauty behind Kendo is. This art teaches you how to do one thing: score the perfect point against your opponent. But in mastering that one skill, you also indirectly mastered 10,000 other ones.